I did it. 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 I made it through my list of agents to cold call, and I am super excited to share the top 10 lessons that I've learned. But first, hi, I'm Sabrina, and I am failing forward in real estate to build a more durable life. And this was the first time that I have committed to and followed through on going through a list to cold call. So in this video, I'm going to talk about what I did and what I learned calling over 200 agents to hopefully help you if you're ever staring at a list of numbers but finding it hard to dial. I used PropStream and downloaded the sales information for the sold homes in the county that I'm targeting within the last year. And I use that filter because, remember, I've seen numbers from 50% all the way up to like 75% of licensed agents didn't actually sell or transact on a home within the last year. And so I was looking for people who are active. So I kind of use that selection criteria as a kind of crude indicator of who might be actively selling homes if they've done a transaction within the last year. So like I said, I use PropStream, and inside of the interface, you can, once you put in the filter for the county and the solds, in the menu option before you download it, you'll want to check that you are in the options and that you actually check to have the agent name, email, and phone number be downloaded. It's not an automatic setting, but you can get it, like to the degree that they have the information. You can get it, but you've got to go through a couple of extra steps in the options settings. And even though I use PropStream, which is a paid software, I'm sure there are ways to do this on free platforms, but I was already paying for it, and it was an easy way to just filter for the sold houses in the last year, select those options for the additional MLS information, agent name, email, and phone number, and download all of that to my computer. So then I downloaded it, and you've always gotta clean it up. There's gonna be, some people sold multiple houses. So once I removed the duplicates, I had a list of about 300 agents. But then I filtered that even further to focus on numbers that had area codes that matched the county that I'm looking in. And the idea here was that, agents could have potentially, sold homes in this county, even though their offices or their particular base is in another county. So the county that I'm focused on is a bit of more small to mid-size. And, agents in the bigger county likely do transactions there. But I was really looking for people who have local, on the ground, area knowledge. So after doing the first initial few calls, I realized that I also wanted to filter for those specific area codes. So I use their phone number as kind of a proxy for people who might know that specific area better. And then from all of that criteria, I ended up with a list of about 230-ish numbers to dial. Okay, so let's get into those top 10 lessons. Now, these aren't exactly in any particular order. I think they're more kind of in the order that I sort of started to realize them. All right. Lesson number 1, most people don't answer. I was so nervous, right? Trying to rehearse what I was going to say and building up all this courage to dial the number, and then voicemail message, right? So I totally thought if I got the number, they'll pick up. No, most people will not. So I focused on calling earlier in the morning, right? I had to fit this into my work schedule. So I had to do it right before work. And I'm thinking, I also want to catch agents before they're out showing homes or doing whatever during the day. So I focused on getting people in the morning. And I still only actually chatted with 44 people. It's 19% of the list, which meant that I left 76 voicemails, or roughly 33% of those calls. So it was really like less about like cold calling agents and more like cold voicemails. All right. So the takeaway here is just make the call. They probably won't answer anyway. And whether they answer or not, the second lesson is critical. So lesson number 2 is that you need a script. Now, I don't want you to sound like a robot, but knowing what you're gonna say to start each conversation or what you're gonna say in the voicemails, that was huge for me. So my early calls were awkward, right? Like I would ramble, I would over explain, and I would hang up thinking, wait, what did I even say? So I developed a short and clear opening that actually had a goal, right? It accomplished 2 things. First, it introduced me quickly and let people know I am a rental investor. And 2, it gave them space to say no, which brings me to lesson number 3. You've got to let them say no. So I realized that the first few times, the first few like versions of the script, I wasn't direct enough. Like I was trying to sound friendly but it ended up just making the conversation confusing, right? So these are busy professionals, as are you most likely. And so you're not trying to like chat them up. You're trying to screen them out. Because what you're really trying to do is just figure out who is interested in working with you, working with an investor. And so you need to find that out quickly and move on. And so I added this phrase to my script and it was a game changer. And it was, is working with real estate investors something you're open to or interested in? That's it, right? But with that change, I became much less nervous because it became super clear, like, why am I calling? It's to figure out the answer to this question. So giving them something to say no to saves everyone time. For those who said yes, it was a simple request for their email so that I could share my buy box with them. And if you want a tool to help you build your buy box automatically, I'll link to that in the description. But speaking of emails, lesson number 4 is that you need a template for those 2. So once people said yes, I needed a process to guide them to the next step. And so for me, that was an email template. I made these calls before work. So I had to be efficient because once I got off the phone, I needed to immediately be in work mode. And so all I had to do was copy and paste, add their name, put in the subject, which was the same for everyone, and send that off. So have a simple script for your calls and your voicemails, and prep with your buy box and your email template to have that ready to go. Lesson number 5, there will be ebbs and flows in the call responses. So even though I said that most people won't answer, which is true, the extent to which that happens kind of varies day to day, especially if you batch them the way that I did, right? So my goal was to just do 5 calls a day. And so this funny thing that I noticed is that it seemed like some days everyone was picking up, and other days it was like nothing but voicemail messages or bad connections. So just realize that kind of like ebb and flow in the actual response volume likely will kind of change and fluctuate from day to day. But don't worry, you're not doing anything wrong. There's like, probably nothing wrong with kind of how you set it up or the ways that you're doing things. Just know that flow is likely to happen. So just consistently keep making the calls. So lesson number 6 is that you need a tracking system. And actually you need 2. First, you're actually going to want to track the calls themselves, right? So in my spreadsheet, I added a column to the list where I identified like if we chatted, if I left a voicemail, if they just said that they weren't interested. I had a couple people who said they actually don't do residential real estate. Or like bad connections that I would just remove the phone number. So you need to track this because it sets the foundation for the next system that you need, which is tracking your follow-up. So follow-up is the name of the game in real estate. So if you do all of these calls and you have no system for follow-up except for like keeping everything in your brain, it's like you didn't do the calls in the first place. Because if you're calling dozens or hundreds of people, you cannot remember them all. So I personally use a pretty formal tracking system, a CRM. I use Recently. I am not saying that you need to pay for that. Again, it's another paid service. You could do this in a spreadsheet. You can use free CRM software. I think Podio still has a free version. But what I needed was something that is going to set auto reminders for the follow-up. Like decide on your kind of cadence, whether you're following back up every month, every 2 months, every quarter, whatever. But it's gonna send you an automatic reminder so that you don't have to keep all of that in your head. So the pro tip here is don't waste your time calling if you're not gonna set up the system for following up. Lesson number 7, impatience is your enemy. Truthfully, around 100 dials, I just wanted to be done. Like, I kept kind of like scrolling to the bottom of the list, like how many more do I have based on these 5 a day? How many days do I have left? And I just found this, I just like had this sense of like impatience, urgency. I just wanted to be finished. So like, there's no real tip here, just kind of an awareness that this feeling will likely come. And this is the point that most people will quit. This is when they will say, it's not working. There's no way that this is really going to, anything fruitful is going to come from this. And so just know this feeling will come up. Keep calling anyway. So number 8 is kind of related to number 7, and that is take breaks. So I actually a couple of times just skipped a day or two. I realized that, my morning was a little hectic. I felt like I was rushed or something, and I was kind of feeling a bit burnt out by the process. And that's okay, right? Cold calling is repetitive. You get a lot of no answers. Sometimes you get some weird responses. And so taking a second, taking a break, taking a breather for a day or two is not going to completely derail you and might actually help you to, kind of regain that focus and come back refreshed so that you can continue to call. But make sure that you come back, right? Don't let this be your opportunity to just quit on yourself. Take your break, take a day or two, but no more. Come back, keep dialing. Lesson number 9, expect the unexpected. So even though you have your script, these are still cold calls, right? There's still a live human on the other side. And sometimes they'll say things that you might not be expecting or that you're not ready for. So some conversations might throw you some curveballs, well, it depends, or only if you'll sign an exclusive buyer's agent agreement, or I'm an investor too. So if you get a little bit rattled by an unexpected response, especially early on or maybe later, it's totally okay. Right? That is fine. Just breathe. And that leads me to lesson number 10, go for no. If you're getting something other than very clear positive responses, yeah, that sounds good, or actually I currently have a property to list if you want to take a look at it, then you need to try to get them to say no. Now, this sounds weird, right? But it flipped something for me. I would say after some kind of quibbling statement or, where they seem like they hesitated, I would say something like, it sounds like this isn't going to be a good fit for you. Or, okay, this doesn't sound like something that you're interested in. So instead of convincing them, you're just it's all good if it's not a fit. And so what this helps, it helped with all of the sort of weird questions that they were asking or whatever. And it just forced them to make a decision. Do you want to move forward or not? Remember, because like I said, what you are doing is you are screening people out. You're simply looking for people who are interested in potentially working with you, right? We don't need to have this back and forth. So if you give them the opportunity to just back out, it will stop them from kind of sitting on the fence and they'll just make a decision. It also had this nice effect of helping me to feel more confident because I'm not begging an agent to work with me. I'm just sort of listen, here's a cool arrangement that can benefit us both. Are you interested in it? Yes or no? And if the answer was no, cool, moving on. I know I said there's only 10 lessons, but here's a bonus. Number 11, you will learn your criteria along the way. So something interesting happened. Like as I dialed, I started to, better hone in on the kinds of criteria that I was looking for, right? So like I said, I set up the list. I wanted people who seemed pretty active in the county, that seemed to have some area expertise using that phone number as an indicator, right? But what I also realized is that I wanted to connect to individuals. So anyone who had, like an admin or receptionist or whatever answering the phone, those were not my people. I also realized, like, again, with that kind of filter, sometimes when I would get to a name on the list from PropStream, it would be like a company, right? So it would have team or management or realty. And I just started to pass them. I would just mark them as removed because, like I said, I'm looking for, like an individual who is out here hustling, who is really trying to like do transactions, but maybe not necessarily having to navigate through more complex kind of administrative structures. Like I was really looking for someone who wants to like work with me as an individual, as a person. So for better or for worse, that was a criteria that I started to develop as I was making these calls. So the important thing here is that this criteria became clear to me as I dialed, right? So for better or for worse, this was something that felt right for me. And likely as you dial, in whatever area that you're focused on, new criteria, you're going to start to see the things that are important to you as you actually move through the list. So that's simply to say that as you go through the process, it'll likely emerge who are your people. So there's my top 10 plus 1 lessons from cold calling over 200 agents. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, you might be wondering, like, how do you find the time to do this, right? Especially if you're busy, if you've got a full-time job like me. And so if that is you, you might be interested in this video next. I'll see you in the next one.